Welcome to Girl Talk with Jenny Raven. Episode 1, Jennifer Lunden. So welcome to this very first podcast with me, Jenny Raven. I'm nervous, I'm excited, I'm thrilled. This is part of my ongoing journey, an extension of the biography about my own personal journey that I've been writing over the last year. I'm delighted to have Jennifer with me to pop my cherry, as it were, to step into the podcasting world. And how are you doing, Jennifer?
I'm good, thank you. I'm very well, thanks.
Well, you have a massive online presence, and you're an online creator in the erotic space, and that's one of the things I wanted to really deep dive into. Clearly, I'm doing the same. I'm using written words. You're using cameras and video, but just so that we can get a sense of who you are, please tell me, what is your favourite outfit to wear?
Without doubt, lingerie. Probably with a nice corset. Give me a nice shape. You know, at the end of the day, you look in the mirror, you like what you see, you think it looks sexy and you feel sexy. Maybe with 6 straps, suspender belt, corset, heels.
All sounds gorgeous. If it's anything like me, I feel extraordinarily feminine when I get dressed up. How do you feel in those heels and stockings and a corset that gives you that gorgeous figure?
It's an interesting question because it kind of changes over time. If you'd asked me 20 years ago, it would have been, wow, this is amazing, this is life-changing. I feel like a different person. I feel so sexy. It feels so erotic. And and it still feels sexy and erotic, but it doesn't feel like a different person anymore. I've got all the way past that stage. But, this is an expression of my sensual feminine side. So, when I'm dressed and looking my best, it's okay now. Now I'm ready to have some fun.
You said 20 years. I resonate with that because there was a thing that happened about 20 years ago, which was the internet and Amazon, and the ability to find and easily purchase clothing that wasn't on the high street. Was that a watershed moment for you too?
Certainly the advent of the internet, yeah. Early fetish websites and trans websites, realising that, women not alone. In fact, it's hesitate to use the word normal, but it is fairly normal, actually. Finding that you don't fit somewhere neatly in one end of the gender spectrum. Yeah, the ability to buy clothes. Yeah, things like, we had home shopping catalogues before that, if you remember those.
Oh, I certainly do.
When lingerie stores and high street stores like Next and Marks and Spencer's went online, and it just became so much easier to buy things. It was a big moment, and my bank account took a huge hit probably around that time as well. Yeah, it made it so much easier. I mean, when you're first starting off, nobody wants to just stroll into sort of River Island and buy a dress. That's a bra and panties. I mean, nobody early on in their journey is going to have the confidence for that. So, of course, it was a massive thing, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, your comment about it being normal, I really resonate with that as well. And it's something that I'm exploring on my own journey, in so much as, my personal experience is that the people immediately around me, I can sense who's going to have a reaction and who isn't. And I need to tread carefully. But beyond that inner circle, almost everybody else, it's so unimportant. It's just you just being you, and nobody's really bothered. It's just you being you. And that's, I did a big survey at the beginning of the year, asking cross-dressers about their experiences, and it was very Gen X inflected, millennial and a little bit of boomer. I think perhaps my questioning attracted that type of person or that age of person to answer the questions, and they came shining through that, most of the time most people had challenges with very immediate relationships, but beyond that it really wasn't so much of a big deal. And
yep.
I think it's part of the world that we live in now.
Yeah, I mean, you live in a big city, you live in Manchester, London, you're going to see trans people. You might work with trans people. There's trans people in the media, both in sort of entertainment and in sort of the public eye. So the challenge is always how you how you manage that social transition.
Let's dive into your erotic career. We're both erotic content creators. I use words to create my erotic imagery. How would you describe yourself in that content creative sense?
Amateur middle-aged porn star. I think star's probably a better exaggeration, but yeah, I mean, I produce adult content, produce pornography. It is what it is, you know. Yeah, I think just sort of when people say content creator, really, these days, it's a new word for porn, isn't it? Really, you know, for quite a long time now, as you may know, Jenny, I've felt quite confident in sharing my sexual exploits online in social media, and then I guess as the pandemic started easing, you know, I didn't have to go into work so much. I had a lot more freedom in my life. I had a change in personal circumstances. I was living on my own. I had flexibility with my work. And, you know, people have been saying to me for years, why don't you... Well, I think the thing I was asked most is, why don't you start an OnlyFans? And of course, I'm not actually on OnlyFans as such, but I'm on an equivalent platform. And I think all those years of people that suggesting it to me, and finally... It made sense because I had the flexibility in my life to do that. So I did, and I had a few contacts of people I thought I might like to work with. So I just dived in, really.
Tell me about filming that very first clip and that moment where you pressed the button to say upload, and how it felt, and how that day passed, or that time period.
So I was still, obviously very much in a learning process. I think the first, I can't actually remember what the first thing I filmed with a co-performer was, as opposed to just solo stuff. I don't really remember, but I think it was possibly with a woman called Alex Amor, who's a webcam model. But we have mutual friends, and she agreed to help me out with this. So I booked a hotel room, and we filmed 3 things. I didn't know what I was doing. I had really cheap, rubbish cameras, but I set them up on tripods. We just sort of went for it. She bought a strap on with her and fucked me. Then we did sort of 3 different outfits. We filmed 3 different things. I edited it together. Again, I didn't know what I was doing. I just downloaded some free video editing software. Just kind of put it all together. Uploaded it to my to my Fancentro site. Put a few pictures, a few still frames out there on my social media to say that, hey, this is what I've done. But started getting subscriptions. But there was no nerves about it. There was no nerves, no apprehension, no feeling of is this the right thing for me to do? There was nothing like that, because I'd already been on that journey for so long of living my sex life and my fantasies out in public, almost. There was no apprehension. I just sort of did it. It built over time. I think there's 2 or 3 moments where I worked with fairly high-profile creators, and when that happened, my profile really took off online. The subscribers really started to build. So yeah, I think that those are watershed moments. Like, anybody wanting to get into the content creation space, is work with people who can raise your profile. That was when it really started to take off.
And do you create content weekly, or what is the time period? And talk me through, what a typical shoot would be like.
Probably on average every 1 or 2 weeks, I do like a shoot with a co-performer. I might do some solo stuff more frequently than that. And in terms of doing like a hardcore porn shoot, probably every couple of weeks. And I'll try to typically get 2 or 3 videos out of the session. It'll normally be on a weekend, because fitting it in after work is a bit difficult. I still do the full-time office job. Weekend. If it's a male co-performer, I'll try to meet them first for a coffee, or at least have a phone call with them first. We'll get in a hotel room. I'll get ready, set up my cameras. We'll sit down and have a chat, have a drink talk about what we're going to do, and then we get on with it. A lot of my male co-performers are volunteers. They're not creators themselves. So for those guys, they probably won't want to show their faces on camera. So we'll discuss, how we're going to position ourselves to make that feasible. There are certain positions or sexual positions that lend themselves well to me being in shot and them not being in shot. So we'll talk them through that. And of course, I'll make sure that they're really sure about doing this, because once the material's out there, it's out there. I'm not going to take it down if they change their mind. And even if I did, there's a high chance that it's been pirated and copied and redistributed. So they need to make sure that this is what they want. So just do that sort of due diligence, and then we get on with it. Try and make it fun for them. Try and make it a nice experience for everyone. When I first started doing this, I felt that I didn't really try to introduce any sort of plot into what I was filming. It was more just, let's have sex and film it. But there's only so many variations of that you can do, isn't it? It gets monotonous. So I started introducing a plot. So I might say to the guy, right, you're this, I'm that. I won't give them a script, but I'll say just follow my lead. I'll do most of the talking, and I'll just give them the cues, and we'll just take it from there.
So for me personally, a camera lens being in an erotic situation is actually part of one of the things that presses my buttons. Is that something that is like having been voyeured, or however you want to describe it, really? Is that something that you respond to personally?
Yeah. Well, I've read some of your work, so I know that performing for a camera is something that you find sexy, and yeah, I do too. Although it's more like it's kind of more like I enjoy knowing that people are watching it. I enjoy knowing that people are finding it erotic, and yeah, to be blunt, people are masturbating to it. But I enjoy reading the feedback. I enjoy the interaction. The filming itself, the mechanical experience of having a camera pointing at me itself, is not something that's sexy to me. But the end product is. The end product definitely is. Creating a film that I find sexy and erotic, and knowing that other people do too, is definitely a turn on for me.
Who do you enjoy creating, in your own words, amateur porn, which I love? I adore the idea of that. Who do you love making amateur porn with most? To be honest,
I enjoy working with male performers the most. I enjoy I do work with women as well, and trans girls, but I like working with men the most. That is, even though I'm bisexual, the reality is that sex with men just does something for me that sex with women doesn't. Really, it's great working with guys who are themselves creators, who are used to the routine. They don't have any nerves in front of the camera. They know how to get hard. There's no there's no sitting there for half an hour, kind of saying, "Are you sure you don't want a Viagra?" and sort of sucking their cock for half an hour until they're ready to go. They're fluffing. There's none of that. So working with professional or semi-professional creators is just great, because you can just get loads done. You can just get straight down to it, and it's fun. So yeah, that is my first choice. But I do enjoy working with as I put it, the volunteers as well, because I know that they're there because they find me attractive. So that in itself has a certain appeal for me, and that does tend to create a genuine intimacy between the two of us. Just me knowing that they're there because they want to be there and they want to be with me and have sex with me does create like an authenticity. So hope that answers your question.
Yeah, no, very much so. And what is the best part of, because obviously, you've got a day job and you're not doing this for the money. So
well, I am kind of.
Well, okay. So let me ask this again. So if there is a balance between doing this for, the money, the financial reward, and the pleasure, what are those two payoffs like? Does it make enough good money and press the buttons to really effectively, do you see a future where you can give up the day job and become this full-time permanently?
So for me, no, because I'm not young. The reality is that I don't have 10, 20 years ahead of me where I can do this. It's just not the case. But I feel like I've had a taste of the potential. And if I were 25 years old, 23, 24, 25 years old, and earning what I'm earning through content, I'll probably think, yeah, this is good. I can make a career out of this. Yeah, so I feel I've had that sort of taste of it. But for somebody who's, frankly, middle-aged and living in London and has a mortgage, no, it's not gonna. You can't live off it. But there are plenty of creators out there who can make it work financially, of course.
Right. Let's just talk about the best thing about doing this. What is the best thing for you personally?
Just seeing the end product. A friend of mine said to me, "This is your equivalent of arts and crafts, isn't it?" And I had a bit of a laugh, but I said, "Yeah, it kind of is, because it is probably my main hobby. It's I love seeing the finished product. I love knowing that other people are enjoying it. I love the process of making it. I love having sex, frankly. Everything about it is rewarding for me. Meeting nice people, meeting people who like me for this version of myself, if you like. Having sex, making a connection with people, and then creating, as I mentioned earlier, creating a product which is not just a product. It has like an authenticity to it. Even when there's like a sort of fictional plot line to it, there's still two people there having sex with each other and enjoying each other's company and each other's bodies. And creating that video and sharing it with other people and knowing that they're enjoying it too. Yeah, the whole process is rewarding and sexy for me. And of course, it is financially quite rewarding as well. So.
I know we've already covered this, but having fans connect with you, is that still a big buzz?
Of course, yeah. I mean, at first I felt a bit cynical, saying, "Oh, if you subscribe to my platform, you've got access to my DMs." It seemed like a bit exploitative. But the reality is that I can't answer all the messages I get on Instagram and Twitter and Flickr and TV Chicks and all the rest. I can't answer them all. Or if I do, the most I can get is like a quick one sentence. "Oh, thanks a lot. That's great." On my fan site, interacting with my subscribers, we can go. I can make the time to actually have proper conversations and get to know them a little bit, as well as vice versa. So yeah, I mean, that's part of my morning routine, really. If I log in and see who's messaged me, and I make sure I give them some time and make the time to hopefully get to know a bit about them as well.
And what would you think have you been your biggest lessons on this journey?
I can think of two main lessons. One, I think people are not as kinky as I thought they'd be. I thought people would want to see bondage, domination, pegging, chastity, all this kind of thing. I thought that's what people would want. Rough sex. But really it's not. Most people just want to see sensual, intimate sex between two people. Kissing. People love seeing kissing. That's more of a turn on for 90% of people than seeing some get tied up and spanked. Most people would just much rather watch two people into each other kissing. So that's one thing. I think the second lesson I've learned is that I spoke about how this is a passion and a hobby, but you also need to treat it as a business. You need to be very well organised. You need to work very hard, very, very hard. You need to promote yourself relentlessly. I'll get some comments like saying, "Oh, I'm sick of you always plugging your content on social media." So, well, I get it, I do, but how else are people going to find out about it? How else am I going to make it financially worthwhile? I mean, forget about making a massive profit. How else am I even going to sort of cover my costs and a little bit extra for my time if people don't know about my content? So, of course, yeah, you have to be very well organised. You have to, once you've got an appointment, a slot lined up to film with someone, you have to keep in touch with them and make sure that they're not going to pull out. There's, for us adult performers, before we can release any video, there's a consent process. We have to make sure that all co-performers provide their ID and fill in a release form. So I have to make sure that all that is done in advance. So nobody turns up on the day and says, "Oh, no, I'm not sure about signing that." You do have to be quite business-like in your approach, and well organised. So I think they're the two biggest lessons I learned.
Yeah, I really agree on that first point about what is erotic, and I've for all of my life since the internet really blew up and porn obviously became the massive thing on the internet that it is, I've always been struck how American style, porn where every hole's a go, it almost becomes gynecological. I personally, like you, kissing, and you've read my book, so it does get steamy, but it's all in service of connection, and I think that's the thing that we're all striving for, is that to be with and to feel inside the erotic energy, as opposed to an observer in a kind of like act.
Yeah, I do sometimes enjoy more hardcore stuff, gangbang stuff, but it's I don't really want to portray myself as a piece of meat. That's not really sexy, is it?
Yeah, I guess what I'm kind of alluding to here is that seems to be like 99.5% of, if your definition of pornography seems to be like, you can almost plot it out in a 12 minute sequence. You can know what's going to happen almost every minute. And I have a good friend in Australia. She's called the Porn Queen of Australia, and she does feminist porn, and it's almost the opposite of what I suppose the American style pornography industry churns out, and it's much more resonant for me. And maybe that's just the feminine energy in me responding to it. I accept that may well be it, because I don't, I speak to a lot of blokey men, and often I'm like, wow, okay, that's not what's doing it for you is not doing it for me. I want something very, very different, and it does begin with femininity and sensuality, eroticism, touch, intimacy, eye contact. That all of that stuff is very, very potent to me.
Yeah, I think the mainstream of porn has definitely changed. Especially the way oral sex is portrayed in pornography these days. Like, it's sort of 80-90% of the time, it's the guy shoving his cock as far as he can get it down a woman's throat, and she's gagging and sounds like she's about to, vomit.
Yeah, I don't get that.
Yeah, of course, like, deep throat is nice, but that's not how most people have oral sex in real life.
And it's the fact that it's always present. That's kind of what I'm getting to. It's almost like somebody's written a playbook and said, these are the things we need to do, and we're not going to vary from them. And so it all becomes extremely vanilla. Paradoxically, it's become so the same that it's no longer got any, it doesn't hold the mystique that I really think it should do. I think, for me, pornography and anything erotic should have that effect on you that is alluring and draws you in, and not just wham bam done.
Yeah, so this is why you're this is why you're a writer, because you get to delve into the characters and their motivations and so on and so forth. And I'm not a writer, but I do enjoy reading. So I very much appreciate your kind of take on that. Yeah, it is. What you do in your writing is very, very hard to even come close to that in a sort of video format. Unless you're making a movie.
So coming back to your career now, what are you most proud of that you've achieved in your career?
I don't have a single thing that one thing I can say, this is, defines my career. I think just really the fact that I have made a relative success out of it, because I know so many other trans girls who have tried it, and they may be younger than me, they may be prettier than me, believe it or not, but they've not approached it with like the professional attitude. They've not had the work ethic that I have, and the fact that I've made a relative success out of this, and I have a few hundred subscribers. I don't know thousands, but I have a few hundred, and the fact that I've invested the time and money in improving the quality of my content, learning how to use the cameras, learning how to do better video editing, learning how to for the camera a little bit better, and just producing a better quality of content, of just making a relative success out of it, is what I'm proud of. I hear from so many girls say, "Oh, I'd love to do what you're doing. How do you do it?" And I'm sort of always happy to give advice, but then I see them sort of upload sort of 3 photo sets and 2 videos, and that's it. And then they're saying, "Oh, well, I've only got 10 subscribers. What am I doing wrong?" So, well, should be obvious.
It really is a lifestyle choice, isn't it? You need to commit to the marathon of it. It's not just, one weekend's work.
Yeah, so, the people who subscribe to a platform, I think they deserve value for money in return, right? So I want to keep the content coming, keep it quality, and, repay that. Because, if someone subscribes to a platform, I think they're putting a certain amount of faith in you that they're going to get their money's worth. So I want to try to repay that.
And I guess we can roll these 2 questions into one here, because we've kind of talked around this. And I suppose, what is the key to success in creating the content that you create, and what advice would you offer somebody who is thinking of moving into this space to create their own brand? What would you say to them?
Yeah, if we're going to keep it, if we're talking trans-specific, presentation's important. Work on your makeup, get it looking as good as you can. Take lessons if necessary. This is obviously important. You need to increase your social media profile as much as possible, because that's your shop window. And there's nothing else. You can't just hope that people are going to stumble upon your profile and say, "Well, that looks interesting." You really need to work hard at your social media profile. And if you don't have that already, create that before launching your platform. Otherwise, you're just wasting your time. Yeah. If you don't have 10,000 plus subscribers on multiple platforms, then you're going to find it hard, I think, to reach people with your content. So you got, and that is itself hard work. Growing your social media profile is itself hard work. So, but that's got to be your first priority, I think. And then, just going back on things I was saying earlier on, look at the quality of your content, the professionalism of your production. Work hard at improving that. And I've still got a way to go. My work isn't professional quality, but it is improving. So, and just be prepared. Be prepared for it to take over a big chunk of your life if you want to make a success of it. You've got to treat it as a second job. It's not something you can just spend a couple of hours a week on. I don't think you're going to make a success of it that way.
I know all too well about the challenges of social media. I think I'm on my 5th Instagram now. I keep it. I hit 10,000 followers, and then I get shut down. Always at 10,000. How can people see your work?
I have a fan site. Not only fans, I use something called Fan Centro. You can subscribe to there. And I strongly do not believe in putting pay-per-view on my fan site. So once you subscribe, you've got access to everything. Every video I've ever made is on there. I also have a ManyVids store. Both my Fan Centro and ManyVids are under the name Jennifer Lunden, with London spelt with a U and an E. Lunden. So they're easy to find. Fan Centro and ManyVids. All my stuff's up on there. Also have Twitter that you've probably seen, so I'll put clips of all my videos up on there anyway. So even if you don't want to pay for stuff, you can still get sort of little 30-second snippets of me doing my thing. I probably give away too much, to be honest. But that's all up there to see on Twitter.
Yeah. Is there anything you think we should have talked about? Anything we should cover?
Well, one thing I was thinking of is that perhaps some parallels with what I've read in your work and my own life, my own journey. One thing I found really interesting was this Ruby character. It was kind of like a rebellious, slightly older, sort of punky, almost androgynous, but also feminine, kind of very assertive character. And I found it really interesting to read, because I think the first person in my life who really encouraged this side of me was a similar character, a woman about 3 or 4 years older than me, sort of punk girl, tattooed and pierced, very you wouldn't fuck with her, let's put it that way. She was a bit of a hard ass, but yeah, she really encouraged my feminine side. She'd buy clothes for me. She'd fuck me with a strap on and stuff. So yeah, and she should sometimes video me as well, actually. So I think that's a real parallel I saw, and one of the reasons why the story resonated with me. So I think another point in there is that I think expressing your sexuality there's nothing wrong with it. In fact, it's the opposite. It's healthy. Bottling up your desires and your sexual identity is actually really quite unhealthy. And I don't want to sound judgmental with that, because everybody has their lives. You know, they're balancing society's expectations of them with the way they might feel inside. I understand that, but at the same time, I think I don't think anybody should be apologetic about being true to themselves and doing the things that make them feel fulfilled and sexy. The way I see it, I'm not harming anyone. I'm doing the exact opposite. I'm bringing pleasure to myself and hopefully other people as well. Being true to myself. And I don't think bottling that up would help anyone.
It really doesn't. And I turn a camera lens on myself for that. Not being a shining example of it. But every time I kind of really think about it, I realise just how ridiculously harmless it all is. Like, it really is utterly harmless. And what's anybody got any opinion about? Why do we even have opinions about it? It's really utterly ridiculous. Okay, so I think we're coming to an end. Any final thoughts then? Because it went all somber at the end. I see you there. I see you there in your black stockings and suspenders and looking gorgeous. I'm feeling very envious of you being on camera, to be that version of you.
I have a gentleman friend coming to visit this afternoon.
Oh, fabulous! Look at you.
So I thought I may as well get ready for our chat.
Well, it's been a real pleasure. I've enjoyed every single moment of it, and I can't wait to post-produce it and then get it up onto my website and my socials, and obviously I'll tag you. Any final bits of wisdom to share with us girls out here on the internet?
Be true to yourself, and remember that it's not hurting anyone. And if you feel that your sensual side, your sexual side is feminine, and that's how you feel satisfied and fulfilled, then just don't be afraid to embrace it, because there's plenty of us who do. It's not unusual, it's not odd, it's not unhealthy.
Thank you so much for sharing yourself with us, and I can't wait to watch your next video.
Thank you, Jenny. I'll speak to you soon.
Thank you, girls, for listening to my podcast. I really appreciate you listening all the way through to the end. If you've enjoyed what you've heard, then please consider going over to my website at jennyraven.com and join my mailing list. Then you'll get information about all of my very, very naughty things that I send out on a regular basis. You'll also get access to a couple of my free stories. You can either read them, or better still, you can experience them as an audio journey where I will directly encourage you to dress up for me in your favourite costume and do very, very, very unspeakably naughty things. I can't wait for you to send me photos of that experience with me, so please do join up at jennyraven.com.